Hello everyone, so this is a lecture review of the last lecture we had on flexbox CSS. So code along with me if it means you starting from scratch. So let's jump in and start coding. So my VS Studio Code is up, and the first thing we are going to do is to hit the exclamation key. Then we rename this as flexbox. Let's say flexbox CSS. Let me increase the font so everyone gets to see what we are doing. Flexbox. So the HTML is just going to be a very simple one, and we won't be taking so much time here. Also, an added bonus is I'm going to be teaching you how to just, instead of going through the git init and git add, how to just drag and drop your project file into GitHub. So as time progresses, we would actually get into Git properly. With time, I'll always bring it up and ensure that you get so confident with the command line. But meanwhile, I will show you how to just drag your project file and drop it into GitHub. I didn't want to show you this now, but I just have to show you so you can get your projects on your GitHub account. So let's jump in and start coding. The first thing I want to have is a div with a class of flex container. And this container is going to have 3 div items. So you know how we did it in class. I did dot items, which is actually the div, and I opened the curly bracket and I did item, and I used the $sign and I said times 3. So I think this should be it for our HTML. Let's save our file. Let's jump right straight into our CSS file. Hello guys, so we now have our HTML code. Won't be going over this because it's just simple to create. You and I did that together, and we have our default style, our default styling that actually gave us these 3 boxes. Now the next thing is to make this to display flex. Now by default, let's assume this is a nav, items in a nav bar that you are creating, and you actually want them to appear on a row. And we did that together too in class. The reason, don't see this as boxes, see them as items. Should, in case you want to maybe work on a project and you wouldn't be building boxes, except maybe for some section of your code that you want to maybe structure them to look like boxes. So we're going to target our flex container, which we already have. We already have this here, flex container, which is a flex container. Like, I actually gave it this name to depict something. We could give it any name. It must not be flex container, but there are stylings that we can actually give to any container that we actually want to apply this CSS flex to. So one of which is display. So we can say display flex, and let's see what this does is, to just convert this into a row. Do you understand? Yeah, so this display flex converts it into a row immediately. So the next thing that we're going to do is to give this flex we didn't actually flex these items. We flexed, we targeted this styling to the container, and inside the container these items are actually housed. So that was why they took that styling. So, and just as we did in class, we'll give it a background color of gray, so we actually know that it's the container that we are giving the styling too. And when we give it a background color of gray, you can now see that, okay, let's give it a background color of red, so you know what we're saying. So you see, our container that is receiving this styling. These blue boxes are actually items in our container. You got that right? So now we talked about floats, but since it's not that important, it's already deprecated, we no longer make use of it. Now let's look at justify content. So I'll comment this out, justify content. Now save it. I will now have a copy of this my flex container. I really want you to understand when to use justify content and when not to. So I'll comment this out. Commenting it out does not, because we still have a copy of it here, then I'll save. Now I want to show you that now this is a row by default. Like we've already given it the flex. By default, when you say display flex, it converts it into a row. Now we're going to say justify content. If we say start, nothing happens because this is already the start. Let's comment this. Okay, let's have a copy down, which I showed you. You hold Shift Alt and hit down, and let's comment this. Justify content. Let's say center. See, it moves to the center. Let's have a copy of this too and comment this out. Justify content. Let's say end. See that it takes it to the end. So you can use the summary. You can use justify content to move items, not just boxes, items on a row from you can either choose to leave it by default to stay where it is, or move it to the center, or move it to the end. Now another thing you can do with justify content is this. Let's get this down and comment this one out. We can say justify content space around. Now what this does is it gives it an even spacing around for every box. Every box gets evenly spaced around the container. And something else you can do again is that we discussed in class was space between. You see what it does? It takes every container to a particular end, and give them and evenly space them between. It does not necessarily have to be 3 boxes, just as we did in class. We could actually have more boxes, and they will all receive even spacing between them. So let's get rid of this, just as we also did in class. So comment this out. Now the next thing we are going to do is to learn how to align vertically. This is horizontally. Now we're also going to let's comment this out. We are taking it bit by bit, so you actually see what you see all that we're doing. Let's comment this out and get a copy of the flex. So we are not rushing it, so you get to see the big picture. So let's save this. So we are back to scratch. To see how it works vertically, we will need to give it a height of let's say 400 pixels and save. Now we have a height of 400 pixels. Now if you don't know, this has actually been converted into a column because of the height. So this is like the cross axis. So if we can't say justify, let's do justify content just as we did. Courtesy of this height, we can no longer say justify content center. It will move, it will still take the row, but if we actually want it to come down, we are going to say align items center. You see where it came to. We can say align items end. Can say align items end. It came to the end. Align items. Let's take this down. Start. Sorry guys, start. it took it to the top. So courtesy of this height that we already gave it, the height of 100 pixels, this became a column, and to move this around this column, you can only use align item. Justify content only works for the row. That is why when we say justify content, it won't move it down. It will still maintain, let's say justify content, end, and save. It still maintains, it's just the row. We can't say align item center and it will bring it down to the center. I hope you got the point. So in summary, align item is actually used to move items around, not text align, or see, align items used to move items around a column. That's up, down, up, down, up, center, down, up, center, down. Why justify content is within the row. So the next thing we discussed about was targeting individual items, and one of our colleagues actually gave us a suggestion, which you should also know. The CSS property we actually the CSS styling property we actually use to do that is called align self. And to do that, let's do it this way. We're moving into the items class. Then we'll use the pseudo selector and say end of type. Then we select, let's say we want to align the first item. Let's say item 1, right? Then we'll now say align self. We're going to say end. Align self. Okay, sorry. Align self. So it didn't work. Okay, see where the problem is from. Sorry guys. Align self. We didn't include the dots. So sorry guys. So align self, we picked the third item and we aligned it to the center. Dot ends last. Okay, we said dot ends last of type. So the last, we're supposed to say dot ends of type. That's one thing with this this autocomplete in your VS Studio Code. You actually need to be careful so you don't select something else. So at end of type. So we can also copy this and do it for others. We can say end of type 1. We can say 1 should go to the end. Then we can say, why this is working this way is because we have this height of 100 pixels. So we can say, just play with this and then we can say, let's take it to the end too. Let's say center. So it comes to the center. Let's take this one to the, let's say start. So in summary, we can actually target individual item with end of type. And there are so many ways we can do this. End of, just as we saw, end of last, end of last, end last of type. So it will actually pick the last item. You don't even need to specify that it's 3. So let's do that. So align end of type 3, say align to the end. So the next thing is, let's get rid of all these. Let's just comment them out and save and get back to where we started from. Next thing is aligning vertically. Aligning vertically. And what do I really mean? You know, by default, when you say, let's copy this. We've already done something like this, but I want to show you something. Let's copy this and let's get rid of all this. Now we still have our height. Let's comment our height out. So and save this. I think we still have a height somewhere. So let's comment this out. Okay. Now we've commented our heights, and by default, because we say display flex, we have it displayed flexed in a flexed way. So we can actually say flex direction. We can alter this and say column. You see. And it takes, and it's converted into a column. Now note that when this is converted into a column, then we can now use what? We can now use align items. Hope you get the point. So instead of doing height, when you convert it into a column, you can now use align items. This is because, see, column is no longer in a row. If we had taken this, let's get rid of this flex direction. You see, I'm saying align items is not working. If I say align items and say end, it will not work because we're on a row. But immediately I uncomment this, you see, everything is now working. Hope you get the point. So that's so up next is to show you that we can still use justify content here, but because this is a column, we'll have to add some height. Let's add a height of 600 pixels. So to give it some space, so we've given this a height of 600 pixels. That means we now have some rows inside it. So I can say justify content. I can say center. It will come down. You see, we have some row. This is a column by default, but when we add some height, we've actually included a row. Then I can say justify content and also justify content start. But when we get rid of this height, we can no longer do it because there is no longer space to do that. The only thing that it sees is this. It sees this as a column because we've already said flex direction column. Normally, it's now seeing. Normally, it should be a row, but it's now seeing the browser is now seeing this flex container as a column and is treating it as one. So to make it back to a row and also to use these two properties, we have to add some height. Okay, so let's get to the next item. So the next thing that we did was to style the contents that we had inside the box. That's item 1, 2, and 3. And to do that, we have to target our, let's get to our items class, and we gave it a color of white. You know what? Let's give it, let's increase the font size. Let's say font size, sorry. Let's say 2 rems. And 2 rems will actually make it big. Let's just say 17 pixels. Now we want to let's, all these that we've been learning, want to center it. So to center it, because let's see this first thing is a row, so we'll say justify content center and align items. Justify content and align items center. For all of this style to work, we have to ensure that we include our display flex. So it came to we needed to say, okay, we are seeing this as a container now, and we say after justify content and align items can only work when we've actually included a display of flex. So that's how we have our items at the middle. So to wrap it all up, whenever you want to implement justify content and align items, there should be a property of display flex. So the last thing that we talked about yesterday was flex basis, which I actually detailed as the width. So instead of saying width of 100 pixels, we can remove this and say flex basis and say 200. Let's just say 100 pixels, so we see that nothing happens. 100 pixels. 100 pixels. What happened? Okay, yeah, because of is in a column. We converted the flex direction to a column, so we needed to get rid of this. So you see, flex basis, we said 100 pixels to be the width, and it worked. We could actually change it to 200 pixels, and it will take that. So it depends on what you want to do. Now, an example is if we are building a website and we want the width to actually be sized this way, we say flex basis this, then we can now come down here and justify the content to the center, right? Let's say justify. Let's say center. You see it. So just make very good use of this flex, this CSS flex. I think this should be all for now. This is like the most we'll be using for most of the websites that we'll be building. And let's jump right straight into the project, and I'll show you the easiest way to actually upload things to your project, to your GitHub account. So and I believe with time we would actually get through with understanding the intricacies in Git and GitHub. Thank you so much.